don't know why he had to die. He could have been injured or something. They could have proceeded that way, but no. The author killed him off completely. That's a little sad. We didn't get to know him even better than we know him. I was kind of sad about that. Very sad. I guess that was one of her dramatic uses. And welcome to the D. Louise book series. I'm Christina, Kristina. This is where we read books and talk about books and catch children. Sorry for the shaky computer. She doesn't like being in front of the camera. Oh well. Yeah. Oh, so if you could please hit the like and subscribe, I'd appreciate it. Also, check out my Star Trek Next Generation recaps on Friday, my If Then videos on Friday afternoon. If you like this author, then maybe you like that author. I recently got on a Halloween binge and did horror, thriller, and suspense. No one has watched any of those videos. Please go back and watch them for me. I'd really appreciate it. One of those videos had Out There Screaming in it, and I had to go back and do a separate video on that particular book, so check that out. Also, don't forget to check out Flashback Mondays, where I talk about up to 80 books in a video. We do Regency, inspirational, contemporary romance, teen, mystery, suspense, Harlequin, and erotica, and paranormal. We do all those. And then, of course, there's my daily book reviews, and we are up to book 9 in the C.S. Harris Sebastain St. Cyr series, Who Buries the Dead? And we have Sebastain, who's a Viscount, and he has learned some stuff about himself in the past couple of books that he's not pleased about, and he's not pleased with his father. They weren't close to begin with, but they had sort of kind of were working their way towards making up, and then an additional thing came up, and they're a little bit more on the estranged side. They're still working towards it, and Sebastain is still working through his issues, but they're slowly getting there. Hero is Sebastian's wife, and she just gave birth to Simon, their kid. And she is also the daughter of his arch enemy, Lord Charles Jarvis. And so there's an issue going on there. Hero, she knows what her father does, and she knows, sometimes she takes his side, sometimes she takes Sebastian's side. But she's working the middle line here. And we did not see Kate Boleyn, so we'll leave her story for another book. We are working with Paul Gibson, our coroner. And Paul Gibson was injured in the war, and he's got a leg injury. And therefore is addicted to laudanum and opium. And he's got a new girlfriend, Alexi, who came about in the previous books. And he gets really depressed that she will not marry him. And spoiler alert, spoiler alert, spoiler alert, spoiler alert. Now, I won't tell you who done it, but I will tell you everything else about the characters. Spoiler alert, but this is a huge spoiler because it hasn't happened yet. It will be revealed that the reason she doesn't want to marry him is because she's already married. So, spoiler alert there. So, Paul's a little depressed about that. And and he's also got the opium thing, and she's trying to help him with that. But, he's an addict. So, it may, it's going to take a while. He's going to have to suffer first. He's going to have to suffer those withdrawals and that kind of shit first. So he's got to go through. That's going to come in the next several books. So, I think that's everybody. Oh, and Tom. I like Tom. He's the footman or tiger or whatever you call him that Sebastain adopted. What are you doing? Come over here. Come over here. Come over here. I don't know what she's eating. Um, so anyways, we get these we start the book off with these two young lovers who want to have a secret rendezvous in the local barn in the hayloft where it'll be dry and comfortable. And yes, ma'am. So we go to this hayloft, and before we get there, or as we approach there, we have a head mounted on the bridge, and then we have a headless body in the barn. So we've got some issues there. She's with the guy. The guy leaves like the chicken that he is, and Molly, our barmaid, reports it to the magistrate. So we get that, and then we get Lovejoy, our oh, I forgot about him. He's our Bow Street guy, Chief Magistrate Bow Street guy, and he calls Sebastain. So Sebastain comes to the crime of the scene, and I love these books because of the history in them. I love that she works real history into them. What are you doing? Yes, ma'am. Uh, She works real history into these books. I love it. I love it. So we've got some history here, and I like to share these books, and especially the endings. Not the story ending, but the author's extra notes at the end. Victoria Thompson does it too, and I enjoy those immensely. Um, so they uh let's see. They find this piece of metal in the barn. It appears to be an old metal strap of some sort, Sebastain said, turning it over. Probably lead. It's freshly cut at both ends, and there's an inscription. It says, and he stops talking. And Lovejoy's like, what? What does it say? Tell me, what does it say? It says King Charles, 1648. Merciful heavens, Sir Henry says. Every schoolboy knew the story of King Charles I, grandson of Mary, Queen of Scots, put on trial by Oliver Cromwell and his Puritan cohorts. He was beheaded on 30 January 1649, only because the old-style calendar reckoned the new year as beginning on 25 March rather than the 1st of January. Chronicles of the time recorded the execution date as 1648. Perhaps it's unrelated to the murder, said Henry. Who knows how long it's been here? The top surface is dry, so it must have been dropped since the rain let up. Uh, so they talk about that. And I wanted to. There's also another interesting um thing here, if I can find it. The head was cut off while the body was resting in the barn. Why was the head cut off? Why display it on the bridge? It's been the practice once to mount the heads of traitors on spikes atop London Bridge, but the barbery had been abandoned about 150 years ago. Sebastain went to study the ground near the bridge, old brick footings, and discovered the metal strap. And that's what I read after that. So, um, they find the head's been mounted and the body's in the barn. So then we have some Lord Charles Jarvis has always got some secret goings on. He always knows stuff but doesn't tell Sebastain. And so we've got Lord Charles Jarvis secret stuff. We got Paul Gibson dealing with his opium thing. He also does the autopsies. At one point, Alexi has to do his girlfriend. She's also a medical doctor. She gets to do the autopsy because Paul is dealing with his addiction and keeps refusing her help. Um, so what did I? let's see what I wrote here. I think I just did this page, but let me just double check this. So this is from Jarvis. This is what happened. 3 years ago, after the death of Princess Amelia, His Majesty decided to build an elaborate new vault at Windsor Castle, beneath the Wolsey Chapel at St. George's. As originally constructed, the vault could only be accessed from the outside the chapel, but the Prince Regent recently decided to install a new entrance in the form of a sloping passage that opens from the choir of St. George itself. Princess Augusta is gravely ill and unlikely to recover. Yes, said Hero. Princess Augusta, elder sister to King George III, was both aunt and mother-in-law to the regent and had taken refuge in England after the death of her husband, the Duke of Brunswick, in battle against Napoleon. Because of her imminent death, the workers were encouraged to proceed quickly. Several days ago, they accidentally broke through a thin brick wall into the vault containing Henry VIII and Jane Seymour. The vault's general location was known, but over the years its exact placement had been forgotten. He slipped a delicate gold snuff box inlaid with a swirl of seed pearls from his pocket and flicked open the lid with the thumbnail. According to records, the vault should have contained only Henry and his favorite queen. But in looking through the aperture they made, the workmen were surprised to see not two, but three adult-sized coffins, the third belonging to Charles I. And Henry VIII's coffin is decidedly poor condition. You can see where a crude opening had at some point been cut in the wall of the vault immediately above and then filled in. Frankly, I suspect the opening was made by the men who lowered the third coffin into the vault. They accidentally dropped it on Henry. Jane Seymour, however, was off to the side and intact. And the third coffin? The third coffin was still covered by a dusty black velvet pall, which upon being raised revealed a plain coffin encircled by a strap said King Charles 1648. So that's where that sign came from. And so then we also have a famous author in here, and she's still alive in this book, and her book is woven into this book on several occasions. A character is referred to, he reminds me of, and if the audio goes gobbled on this, I'm gonna cry. If you haven't been here before and you are still here now, a lot of my videos go garbled at some point. Hewlett Packard and Best Buy say that there's nothing wrong with my computer, but when it goes garbled, you'll know. So let's do we did that already. So let's see what this says, just for the hell of it. So this guy, forgot to mention previously. So this guy, Stanley, has been murdered. He's the guy whose body was found, and he's the guy whose head's been separated. And so I didn't write down all the instances, but the author is Jane Austen. Miss Sense and Sensibility and Pride and Prejudice. And a lot of times later in the book, that he reminds me of so-and-so from this book I'm reading. And Sebastian's like, what book? And that's how they finally named Sebastian's heroes. They found this cat a couple of books ago, and they hadn't been able to come up with any names for the cat. The cat gets his name, Mr. Darcy, from the Jane Austen book. And we get a lot of information about King Charles and the history of London, and we get Hero is doing a interviews on costermongers. Last time she did chimney guys, and then she did street sweepers at one point. Then we get Sebastian's past with Aphalion and all the stuff that happened at the convent. It's been haunting his dreams for a couple books now, and he's slowly giving Hero all the details. She doesn't press him, she accepts what he gives her, and so she learns the rest of it in this book. And we also get to see Aphalion, and his complacent wife also doesn't care what her husband did. So she's got her issues. We also go to an old neighborhood in London. And you'll have to look it up on Wikipedia and stuff. The information is very fascinating. It's very gross and very horrible. But he goes to Hound Ditch. Had been nothing more than a defensive trench dug along the western edge of London's city walls. Running southeast with Bishopsgate to Aldgate, it eventually grew so foul with refuse and offal that the bloated carcasses of dead dogs that the city officials ordered it filled in. Never a fashionable area, it was occupied today mainly by immigrants and their descendants, particularly Huguenots from France, Jews from the Netherlands, Germany, and Poland, and increasingly the Irish. The poverty of the residents made it a center for rag fairs and second-hand shops. Crude stalls piled with everything from bartered tin saucepans and worn-out boots to cheap tallow candles lined the streets, while bellowing vendors dispensed hot tea from cans and guarded piles of sliced bread and butter from the hordes of rag-starving children. The air was thick with smells of herring, smoke, effusio, and despair. And that's where he goes to talk to one of the suspects, and he learns a lot about this really dangerous suspect. And we get a lot of information about Jane Austen, too. And there are several other people that also die in this very interesting, I love how she winds history throughout the book. You get a lot of historical facts from, London's era from this time period, and it's really, really fascinating. And so we will leave that mystery to you, but, I do like the back of this book. The discovery in 1813 of the lost burial vault containing the coffins of Henry VIII, Jane Seymour, and Charles I was real, and excited considerable popular attention. At the time Byron wrote of the discovery, famed for contentious breach of sacred ties, by headless Charles sees heartless Henry lies. While Cruikshank produced a satire of the event called Meditations Among the Tombs, the character portrays the effeminate, unhappily married Prince Regent as envious of Henry VIII's success in ridding himself of so many wives, while Charles sits upon his coffin holding his own detached head in a silent warning. So my description of the burial and the formal opening of Charles' coffin largely comes from the account written by Sir Henry Howard, one of the Regent's personal physicians who was present for the opening and responsible for the removal of several items, including a piece of the severed vertebrae and a tooth. When these items were returned to the vault in 1888, a still extant watercolor sketch was made that shows the interior of the tomb and the disposition of the coffins. The watercolor can be found online. There is some dispute as to the wording of the inscription on Charles' coffin strap. Sir Henry Holland reports that the lead strap was inscribed with the words King Charles 1648. Later, including Guzzo, who wrote a history of the English Revolution in 1838, claimed the strap reads Charles Rex 1648. Another 19th century writer, Sandston, claims it reads Charles, King of England. Clareton Fuller says it was a plate of silver, not lead, and was inscribed King Charles I. Well, John Ashton with Hartford's version, King Charles 1648. Since Halford was there and wrote his account shortly after viewing the coffin, I used him as my authority. Um, See the Memoirs of the Last 2 Years of the Reign of King Charles by Sir Thomas et Herbert, who was present at the burial of the executed king. Although his account, plus a letter written by Herbert to Sir William Dougal in 1681, which also detailed the burial of the king, were in existence in 1813, both were forgotten, and the location of Charles' one body was considered a mystery. Um, So you'll have to check the rest of this out and the rest of her notes. It's a really good book. I'm really enjoying the heck out of this series. So if you could please hit the like and subscribe, I'd really appreciate it. And you'll have to see who else gets murdered because there's quite a few murders in this book, and one of the murders is a personal murder. One of the murders is one of Sebastian's semi inner circle. I don't know why he had to be killed. I think maybe he could have been injured and healed. But she has him dying, flat out dying. I would have preferred him to survive and to carry on. Injured, he was mistaken for Sebastain. She could have played that up a little bit, but the author decides to kill the character, and that was very sad. So, anyways, please hit the like and subscribe. Thank you.